Please join us with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you all for being here. We appreciate very much your attendance. As is our habit as of late, what we'd like to do to start the meeting is to open it up and see if anybody would like to address the city of Cold Spring. We have 3 minutes available. Would anybody like to address the city of Cold Spring? Okay, looks like the demand is a little light tonight. All right, then what we're going to do is we'll just stop it and move on. We're on item number 3 of the agenda. We need to approve the agenda. Can we get a motion, please?
So moved.
Dave, thank you. Can we get a second?
I'll second.
Jamie, thank you. Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. Consent agenda, Ms. Chris.
The minutes from November 10, 2015. Recommendation to approve the minutes of the November 10, 2015 City Council meeting as presented. And that would be the one you were given tonight. There's one little change that was underlined.
I'll make the motion on the agenda, or the
Consent agenda?
consent
Jan,
agenda.
Thank you.
Yep.
Can I get a second?
I'll second it.
Dave, thank you. Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. Passes. The next thing we're going to do is item number 5 on the agenda. We're going to have a public hearing with regards to some assessments that need to be made, and Chris will give us more information on that in a minute. But first thing we would like to do is we're going to open up the hearing itself. So at 6:32, we're going to, Chris said, 6:32, we're going to open the meeting.
That's all right.
Public comments. By the way, in case you're wondering what's going on, we used to have a digital clock, and for some of us, that made it so much easier because you knew exactly when it was 6:32 or 6:33. Now we have to figure out what it is, and some of these people can't agree. So, public comment.
Do we want to just tell what this is? So
Okay, yes, we do. Chris.
We have roughly 7 or 8 unpaid utility bills or property nuisance abatements that went unpaid this year. So every year at this time, we certify the unpaid bills to the tax rolls for those properties, and that's what these are.
Can I, is there anyone that has a comment yet? Then I'm just going to ask a couple of quick questions. So, for somebody listening, somebody that doesn't understand exactly what we're talking about, so if there is a water bill, if there's a fine of some sort that goes unpaid, tell us what would be, how do we get to this point?
And this isn't for people who are still living in their homes and just behind on their bills. This is for somebody who moved out and left behind an unpaid bill on their
Okay.
water, or maybe a vacant property that didn't mow their lawn, and we did it and charged them and they didn't pay it. So our means to collect it at the end of the year, we certify it to their taxes, and for one-time payment, and next year when they pay their taxes, these will get paid.
Okay, so it goes part of the real estate tax bill, and that's when it gets paid as part of the real estate taxes?
Yes.
Okay? Questions about that, anybody? No. All right, this is the third time I'm asking, and I have to ask 3 times. So does any public member have any questions, concerns? Okay, so then we can close the public hearing. And what time would I be closing it?
6:35.
6:35, we'd be closing this. All right, and thank you for that. So now, the next step is 5D, action by the city council. Would you do me a favor and read the recommendation?
Sure.
Thank you.
Recommendation is to certify assessments for delinquent utility bills for the following. Parcel ID 482932100000 in the amount of $619.62. Parcel 482977300000 in the amount of $145.69. Parcel 4829316014 in the amount of $743.17. Parcel 48, 291440000 in the amount of $153.03. Parcel 48, 297030250 in the amount of $386.32. And parcel 48, 294010238 in the amount of $295.07. Furthermore, to certify assessments for the delinquent bills for nuisance abatement to parcel number 248, 297870000 in the amount of $73.44, and 48, 293210000 in the amount of $227.03.
A motion, please.
I'll make that motion.
Jan, thank you. A second?
Second.
Jamie, thank you. Motion is second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Passes unanimously. Thank you, Chris, thank you. Item number 6 on the agenda, solar energy presentation by Dan and Xcel Energy.
Dan, are you giving Mark, all right. Council, Mayor, thank you for inviting us. My name is Mark Ossendorf. I'm the Community Relations Manager at Xcel Energy. My office is in St. Cloud. Dan Style invited us here to talk about solar. It's kind of the hot button these days for a lot of communities, especially institutional customers like cities and school districts. So I invited Lee Gabler, who's kind of, I guess I'll call our solar expert. He works very exclusively with our programs. You know, we have programs, we have mandates from the state, and Lee's going to go through this with a short presentation, and we'll be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you. Lee?
You want to
Oh,
do the
absolutely.
advancement or however?
You just tell
You want me standing anywhere in particular?
4 inches or
Out in the hallway.
Wow, thank you, that's a great welcome. So as Mark said, I'm Lee Gabler with Xcel Energy. I'm really focused, a lot of my time is on customer strategy, but part of the customer strategy that I'm also responsible for is all of our solar programs. So that's rooftop solar as well as community solar gardens. That's across our kind of entire footprint. And in community solar gardens, clearly in Minnesota is, I think Mark mentioned, it's a very hot topic right now. This first slide, we just filed our integrated resource plan, and one of the things from an Xcel Energy standpoint is we're making a large investment in solar between now and 2030. 8% of our generation will be from solar over the next 15 years. So what that kind of looks like is, at the beginning of 2015, we had about 15 megawatts of solar on our system. By 2030, we're projecting to have 2,400 megawatts of solar. So that solar is going to come through a multitude of ways. A lot of it, a large chunk will be utility scale. But then the remainder is going to be made up, 700 to 800 megawatts or more is going to be either rooftop solar or community solar gardens. So let's talk a little bit, and this is going to be very high level, and then if you wanted to get into deeper questions, we can dive into that after. So community solar gardens were really generated by the legislature in 2013. They kind of put out a solar mandate or solar energy standard for utilities. For Xcel Energy, we have goals to achieve in 2020 of 1.5%, and a stretch target of about 10% by 2030. But when they created community solar gardens, it was really meant to be for those customers who couldn't participate in rooftop solar. So you may not be able to afford rooftop solar, you may not be able to, your house isn't situated, you're a renter, you're a small business, you're a congregation, you're a nonprofit. And that was the intent, community solar gardens. And solar gardens were limited to 1 megawatt. If you've been following if you have seen what's kind of been in the press, there's been a significant dispute between the company and the developers, really over the last 9 to 10 months since the program opened. Because what we saw was 1 megawatt gardens, but they were being clustered. So all the way up from 1 megawatt sites to our largest that was submitted was 50 megawatts. So it's 50 megawatts on a very large piece of land. So from a company standpoint, 50 megawatts looks like utility scale to us. And when the legislature debated this and then the rules were first set at the commission, it was clear that the pricing that we'll talk about, the bill credits that Xcel Energy pays, were really meant for gardens of 1 megawatt in size. Solar gardens, some of the basic rules are solar gardens must have a minimum of 5 subscribers. The smallest subscription that a subscriber can take is 200 watts. It's basically a panel. The largest is no more than 40% of the garden output. So if you have a 1 megawatt garden, you can take 400 kW off that system as a subscription. And no more than 120% of customer usage. So there are customers who will try to purchase more output from the gardens than their actual annual usage. So really how it works, this is a very simplified thing, but coming out of the legislature, what is Xcel Energy's role? We are we administer the program. So we're working with the developers, the rules are set by the commission, and then it is our job to administer the program. So from a subscriber standpoint, your relationship is really with the garden owner or operator. And it kind of goes down. You're going to subscribe to a garden operator, and you will work out whatever contractual arrangements. A lot of them are being set at 25 years. I will tell you that we have, from the company standpoint, we have not seen a significant number of the proposals. We kind of get them through back channels. So pricing can change. Pricing varies by the size of the subscription. Pricing, it's going to go how much of a garden you can take. And really our role is we'll work and we'll provide the credit on your bill. So whatever it is per kWh, we put the bill credits on your bill. And this is kind of an eye chart, but this is really what the subscriber bill credits are today. And you see there's both a standard, so the different classes of service: residential, small general service, and general service. I'm assuming you're a general service customer. There's a standard bill credit. And what that means, if you look and it says just under 9.5 cents, that means if you're getting that type of bill credit, you also get the RECs. So you get the renewable energy credits associated with that generation source. What many developers, almost most developers are doing, are selling the RECs back to the company. So the company will then use those RECs as part of our compliance to meet the solar energy standard. So there's 2 different sets of kind of REC payments. If there's small gardens under 250 kW, which are kind of, we're not seeing a lot of those, we're seeing a few. That's 3 cents, but for most gardens that are going up to the 1 megawatt in size, it adds an extra 2 cents onto the bill credit. And this is a very generic form of how it looks, but this is an actual, we have this program in Colorado. It's been in place for about 3 years. The bill credits are different, but basically what customers will see on their bill is really, okay, you subscribe into the Solar Rewards community, you're going to get a production credit based upon how much output that garden generated. So we will, on a monthly basis, do a meter reading of the output of the solar garden, take your % subscription, and then give you a bill credit for the kilowatt hours produced. And really when you start, so this is kind of, I think, where when I was asked to come to really talk about what are the considerations from a subscriber standpoint. Developer selection, there's a lot of developers in the marketplace. There's a lot of developers building solar gardens that you as a city could subscribe to. The rule really is you have to be in the county of or an adjacent county. So there's a lot being developed up in this area. One of the requirements that we have as they enter the process is that all developers have to be in good standing with the state of Minnesota. So I know one question was asked about reputable developers. We believe they're all reputable. And we believe that having the good standing with the state of Minnesota is kind of one seal of approval. Also, most of these, the vast majority of developers have pretty significant financial backing. So for a 1 megawatt garden, just the deposit to start the process is $100,000. So they do have cash. They have fees that they have to pay to us. So there is equity there. But from a broader base, Xcel Energy, we're not going to be in the business of recommending developers. We're going to be in the business of making sure that our customers are informed. We hope to provide as much information as possible, and the subscribers are going to have to make that determination as to who they engage with. And it's really gonna come down to when you start negotiating on the contracts. Most of the contracts today are 25 years in length, which that causes both positives for customers, okay, they're gonna be here for a while, but it's also, many subscribers aren't used to signing a 25-year contract. It's very different. And what are the payment terms? I've heard of some models out there. Some are pay-as-you-go, or some are a fixed price, but many are a pay-as-you-go, and you're either gonna lock into a fixed term, a fixed price for the length of the contract, or you're gonna start at a certain price, and then your payment to a developer will be at a set escalation point. So most payment terms we're seeing today are less than the bill credit rate. So if you're reading the papers, most customers are walking into, it could be a 5 to 10% reduction on your bill today. Now, the challenge is really, and the bet a little bit, is where does that escalator go and where do utility rates go? So there's been a lot of information. There was actually a calculator built, I think, from the University of Minnesota that really was saying that the break-even point is somewhere around 2.6%. I'm not sure if that's accurate or not accurate. I know that some of the literature I've seen is they're looking back at past rate cases, both across the industry and within Excel, and looking at almost 4% annual increases. I can tell you today that we've probably been through a cycle of rate increases that is slowing down. I mean, we've just filed a multi-year plan with the Public Utilities Commission that is 9% over the next 3 years. So it's 3% on average. It's just over 6% in year one, and 1.5% the next few years. So we're kind of below that right now. So the escalators in the contract are important to analyze. And the last thing I put there is there's been a lot of debate in the marketplace around the renewable energy credits. So cities a little bit, but businesses are really looking, they have sustainability goals. And they want to consider themselves carbon free from almost a marketing standpoint. The renewable energy credits are very important to that. If those customers don't own the RECs, they're really not carbon free. It's a fine point, but what we're seeing across the country is this is really managed by the FTC, and they're cracking down on a lot of areas that say, we have this subscription and now we are carbon free. Well, you're carbon free if you own the RECs, but you can see, if you remember the previous slide, how important those RECs are. That extra 2 cents generally is very important to getting that discount on your bill in year one. And this is the last one before we jump into questions. There's been a lot of discussion in the media and in a lot of places. The program opened up in December. On day one of the program opening, we got 420 megawatts worth of garden applications. So I think that kind of is a recognition of how lucrative the program is. We've received over 2,000 megawatts worth of applications, so 2 gigawatts. Sherco is what, 2,400 megawatts, 23? We've almost received a Sherco in solar garden applications. Many of those projects are going to have to scale down to a 5 megawatt limit. Many of those projects just won't go through because they won't have financing. And one of the other things is they won't go through because of just the time it takes to interconnect. Or the cost to interconnect. We're not doing significant distribution system upgrades. It's substations to interconnect these projects. And the critical time for these projects is really the end of 2016. So everyone's in a mad dash to become commercially operational by the end of 2016, because that's when the federal incentive tax credit drops from 30% to 10%. So from a financing standpoint, that is we are just in a kind of a sprint from today until, I would say, people want to be commercially operational by October to make sure there's no issues. But this was, we show this slide. We do have one garden live. It's a very small garden, but this is really, what was meant kind of by Community Solar Gardens. It's a farmer down near Mankato. He's running part of his farm with it, and he's got 5 friends they're all subscribing to it. It's a 40 kW system, so it went operational in September. There will be more gardens, so as we talk about these large 5 megawatt gardens, there's gonna be a lot of, 40 kW or smaller systems going into urban areas. There's, faith communities down in the metro area are really coming together to put these on their buildings for their parishioners. From a company standpoint, we love that. It's really what community solar gardens are all about. Our commitment to this program is we're gonna build as many solar gardens as we can, because one thing we know is our customers want it. They want the solar option. They want cleaner energy. And this is one way that we can go about it. So, it's very high level, I know, but I'm open to answer any questions you have that, one of the comments that we make here is, again, the company's not gonna be in a position to, pick winners and losers from a developer standpoint, but we wanna make sure you're our customer. So how can we help educate you, and Mark's always there, to provide whatever information you need as you are probably getting multiple proposals.
With regards to that, do we talk to Mark or do we talk to you? So we do get multiple proposals and we synthesize them as best we can, but this isn't what we do. So do you give us some guidance as far as which proposal looks better? What to shy away from? Can you give us, you said you don't recommend contractors. I get that. But can you give us some guidance about some of this?
If you ask, sure, we'll help you vet through the proposals and ask the
Okay.
questions. I mean, there's so many, I think a question was asked, what happens if a solar garden developer goes bankrupt? I don't know the answer to that. We haven't, we know that solar gardens most likely will change ownership during the 25-year term. The market's there's a lot of players in the market right now that they'll build and then they won't be in the market. So someone's gonna come in and start potentially consolidating, as an example. And I think that kind of gets into what are the terms, what are the ins, what are the outs. I think one benefit of a pay-as-you-go, if a garden's not generating, you're not paying. No, right? You're paying for how many kilowatt hours it's generating. And if for some reason half the thing shuts down, you're not paying. That just means your bill rate will be less as well. So they kind of go hand in hand.
Okay. Council, what do you got for him? Questions? Jamie, Dave?
Is there gonna be someday that there's so much of that it's gonna cover the whole world?
So much. I don't think we'll get to that point. I think, from Excel's perspectives, we want to really bring in cost-effective solutions for our customers. So when we talk about your savings, and I'll be very blunt and honest about this, the savings you achieve should you sign up for a solar garden are being borne by all of our customers. So these are kind of what I would call revenue neutral to Excel Energy. So because these costs, to get not too technical, really flow through our fuel clause. So this is just a different type of fuel we're buying. It just happens to be a more expensive fuel.
But isn't it gonna clutter the countryside, just like how the wind chargers are doing? They're cluttering.
They are taking up tracts of land. 1 megawatt takes up anywhere between 5 and 7 acres.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of farmland. I mean, even before, I hear anecdotal things, even before applications came into the system, farmers in areas, I mean, people had plenty of time to kind of plan their gardens. So they were, developers were out looking at our substations, looking at our distribution lines to say, where can I best site this garden? And when I talk about the company there was a lot of debate before the Public Utilities Commission. We're trying to take our system as is, meaning we're not going to make significant upgrades to our distribution system. These gardens got to be put on, even though the developers bear the cost of those upgrades. Some of them are so, time intensive that it would push them into 2017. So I don't think it's going to take over all the land out there. There's going to be pockets, and what we're seeing too from cities is that as developers are coming, cities are really questioning too to say, okay, are you in my future growth area? How do I permit you? How is this gonna work? I mean, yeah, 25 years, boy, we thought we were gonna do something in that section of town or out there within the next 15 years. So a lot of communities are struggling with, you know, how does this fit in their long-range plan? And then on the flip side, other communities have been incredibly welcoming. You know, it's in some of these instances, it's taking marginal land that won't be used for anything. And they're able to, you know, use that for the solar gardens.
So it would be closer to substations, high-powered lines would be the inviting thing?
It would be, I mean, the closer they get to a substation, the less line work or reconductoring work we have to do. I mean, we've seen some that are very close, and we've seen some that are like 3 miles away. So if you're 3 miles away and it's $50 a foot, you know, you can kind of do the math of how much line work is needed, and that's, you know, they're out there, and then it's also, you know, what are the landowners gonna do? You know, what kind of lease arrangements are they making with the landowners?
I'm done.
Good, huh? Yeah,
I'm good.
you're good?
Is there a reason you don't invest in the solar gardens? You don't go out and do the land?
Excel Energy?
Yeah.
That's a great question. You know, we looked at it, and as we started the program, we were already behind, right? I mean, day one we opened it up. There's 400 megawatts of applications, and it kind of started to grow. So first, from our perspective, is we want to get the rules right. We want to make sure that we go back to the legislative intent that it's not 51 megawatt gardens, it's a megawatt garden. Now, we settled on that for a period of time, and we went up to 5 megawatts. The company is looking at it. You know, one of the opportunities that all the developers have right now is everyone wants that tax equity financing. So that's, I mean, let's be honest, that's where some of the money is. You know, when that steps down, the financing of these projects, I expect will change dramatically in 2017. From a utility perspective, we just don't have that tax appetite right now. However, we're really looking at it to say, are there different opportunities with gardens within communities where we have land, as an example, where we can partner with third parties to come build on our land? That's been debated and under consideration. You know, I think from my perspective, I don't want us to be distracted with gardens right now, because there's just a lot of pressure for us to move projects through our process, and it's a timely process to figure out. I use the analogy, this isn't like plugging in a toaster. You know, these are fairly large arrays going onto our distribution system, where most utility scale is going onto our transmission system. So this is kind of a different animal.
Thanks.
Can I ask a question?
Please.
So like in the case of the example you had up there, they had a credit of $22.95.
Yeah.
So if we get a credit on our bill, then do we turn around and send a check to the developer for something less than that? Is that where our benefit comes in?
Correct. I mean, the best way to look at it would be, and that's like I said, so you can think about it, if you're buying 1,000 kilowatt hours, and your bill credit is 11.5 cents. So you'll get that much. I mean, if I do the math, that's $1,150. Or I'm butchering the math. Just over $100 from a bill credit.
Okay.
You'll probably be sending some amount less to the developer, depending upon what your year one costs are. And the bill credit does escalate. So the bill credit will escalate as our rates escalate. That goes back into saying, what is the arrangement with the developer? Are you on a fixed price for the length of the contract, which means, you know, your year one savings will be very different, or is there an escalator built in?
Is there ever a chance that we would have to pay in more than what our credit is?
Sure. If you have an escalator and our rates don't go up, I mean, it's all
Okay.
projecting on. I saw literature from a developer today, and I'm not saying this is this kind of goes all across all developers, but it was the first time I saw it. And as they're out there knocking on doors, talking to residential customers, they're using a 4% escalator in utility rates. And it was based, you know, there's a footnote. It was based upon EEI average, you know, utility rate increases across the country.
EEI is Edison Electric
Edison
Institute.
Electric.
Okay.
Sorry. We're great on acronyms at the utility, but, so, you know, so you're betting that to get this savings that they're looking at is our rates will go up 4% every year. The graph looks awesome, but if all of a sudden we're going up 2%, then the economics change.
And then we would actually lose money. It would cost us money.
You could there could be a potential.
If we signed on a 4% escalator and your rates went
Right.
up 2%, for
And most
example?
escalators they're not gonna be 4%. They're hoping
Mhm.
the escalator that, you know, has been talked about, that I've heard developers talk about, it'll be less than that 4%.
Mhm.
You know, and I'm catching some of this stuff in the media as well, because developers have competitive advantages and they're not out there. You know, I bring all developers together once every 3 weeks or once every month, and they are not talking about their contracting with each other. They're not talking about their pricing with each other. I think they're learning through anecdotal back channel, or what they're seeing in the press, or if someone sitting on the city council shares another developer's proposal. So they're keeping it which I respect, they're running a business. So they're keeping it very close to the vest.
Is there going to be any health risk to all of those solar gardens?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I mean, I would say that they're talking about 5 megawatt gardens. You know, our largest, I think we're putting in 100 megawatt.
The radiation from them?
No, we're putting in 100 megawatt utility scale. Between now and the end of 2016, just the company will be putting in 287 megawatts of utility scale. So I think if we were concerned about any health issues, we wouldn't be putting in 287 megawatts of utility scale. And if you remember the first slide when I talked about us bringing on 2,400 megawatts of solar between now and 2030, 1,500, 1,600 megawatts of that will be utility scale. So I think to answer your question, if we had a concern about it, the company wouldn't be doing it.
Any more questions for Mark Lee?
None for me.
Okay. Gentlemen, thank you.
Thanks for the opportunity.
And we will be getting back in
Yep.
touch with you, because this is something that our community has talked about many times, and I believe that we're serious about pursuing it. The question that we keep coming back to goes back to what Chris was asking about. What's the long-term risk? Short-term, we can quantify. It's that long-term that we're banking on everybody's crystal ball being perfectly clear.
Exactly. When you find that one, let me know.
Let you know.
We're happy to help. What we can't, what we can't do is we can't tell you this contract's better than the other contract, or
Yep.
yes, I would sign this one. Again, we administer and we manage the programs. The contractual piece of it is something each city has to vet for themselves and truly understand. And I've had lots of cities come to me and say, well, tell me, I can't do that.
Right.
I can't, just like you can't come to me and say, well, which one of these road contracts should I take? Even if I was a road, I can't tell you that. And again, we're experts from the program side. We're not experts from the user side, from the subscriber side. So, and this is new to us too. I mean, this got thrown at us pretty quick, and we're responding as quickly as we can. There's probably gonna be 200 plus projects completed in 2016. So we are trying to not only deal with our normal construction business, but we also have to now address all the work that needs to be done, as the significant upgrades to our distribution system that has to be completed just to accommodate the solar gardens. And I'm not complaining, I'm just saying we're struggling to find the resources and how we're going to accommodate that and meet these goals and objectives. So we have some challenges ahead in 2016. And as Lee said, the push is because of the federal tax credit change.
Okay.
Now, we'll get to the 11th and a half month right before the expiration date, and the federal government will say, we're going to extend that 3 more years. So then perhaps there wouldn't have to be such a rush, but we won't.
But that tax credit change, that's permanent. And you know the definition of permanent when it comes to the federal government.
I'm not sure I want to know.
It means until the next election.
Oh, well, true, yes, that's an excellent definition.
Okay, Lee, I have a question for you. Earlier, you referenced the fact that you thought it was the U of M, but there was a calculator out there that we may be able to access that might give us some information with regards to how to evaluate this. Do you by chance have, or could you get for us that information?
We can provide you with the website. It's in what's called CERTS. It's the Clean Energy Resources Teams.
Okay.
So I think it might be minnesotasearch.org. There's a website out there that it's posted on.
Okay,
And what I don't, and you know, so you can plug in different factors.
Yep.
I don't know if it's more primarily driven to residential, but I don't know why it couldn't be used in a different type of setting, because it's really looking at what are you purchasing, you know, what's your credit, what's kind of the thing, and what are the different terms, so you can plug it in there.
okay, perfect.
I haven't messed around with it too much.
Okay,
So every state has to do this?
Every state? No,
Yeah.
every state is different. There's only a handful of states that have mandates.
Okay.
Minnesota, and for us, we also have a program in Colorado. So we'll have on several hundred megawatts of solar gardens next year in the state of Minnesota. Colorado, as an example, has been in existence. I think I launched that program in 2012 or 13. It will only have 40 megawatts online. So that's just kind of the difference in what's really being mandated by the legislature. California next year is supposed to have upwards of 600 megawatts. But I mean, California's a totally different animal.
You know, their rates are probably double or more than ours are, so on the coast, it's much more attractive option because the rates are substantially
Correct.
higher than they are here.
correct. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. 12-1, if you decide to put a solar garden, how far can you run the wire to your power lines?
Well, I mean, we can run as far as we need to. Now, the question is someone going to pay for that? What we're finding is, you know, we kind of, if the solar garden's too big and it's too far away, then we don't have to build it. Or it can't be built. That's kind of part of the commission rules. But it's all gonna come down to financing too. So at a 1 megawatt garden, as an example, the interconnection costs, most gardens most of the developers can't handle more than, I'm gonna ballpark this, $250,000 to $300,000 worth of interconnection costs. So if you think like reconductoring and service extensions are running $30 to $50 a foot, and I'm not an engineer, I'm just ballparking, spitballing these numbers, $30 a foot. I mean, you go out a mile at $50 a foot, so 5,000 feet, you're starting to get pretty expensive. Quarter of $250,000 right there. So it all depends too, is, I mean, we can reconduct during spring line, can make it work in their financial situation. So most of them have numbers that say, you know, to build a 5 megawatt garden, it's about $2 to $2.5 million a megawatt. So they gotta figure out all their, kind of their financials over 25 years too. Does that help?
Yeah, it does. They're thinking about building one right across the road from where I live. And the power line is right on County Road 2. And my thinking is if they could build a solar garden in a more place that's more hidden,
Yeah.
so it isn't an eyesore to the public. And you'd have to run a mile up wire. To me, that probably make the most sense, but if it's, you know, it's all things to do.
Yeah, and then probably the bigger question there is that line that you see, can it handle that generation? And most of them out here can't. We're having to upgrade the lines to, I mean, it's pumping a lot of energy. Hopefully the fence looks good.
Dan, anybody else? Lee and Mark, before you go, Dan, anybody else? John, anybody else have any questions? Brian, anybody else got any questions with regards to solar gardens and all of this?
I just want to go back to the risks again, because that's kind of where I'm at. So the risk is that the Excel rate increases do not keep up with the increases in that contract you've signed.
That's one of them.
And if that happens, the city or whoever it is would end up paying the difference on that. The second risk is the non-generation of electricity. If that solar garden is not operational, you read the meter, and there's no generation of electricity, does the subscriber then go back to just paying regular rates through Excel?
Yeah, again, goes back to what the contract will be with the developer, but if the solar garden doesn't generate, then you're not paying, as far as I figured out, right? If you're on a kind of a pay-as-you-go with the developer on a monthly basis or whatever your term is, if there's no output, you're not paying the developer, but you're not also getting a bill credit. So you're pretty much going back to what your retail rate is.
Okay, now I hate to put you on the spot, Lee, but what are the other risks?
I think you talked about what is in the contract, what warranties protect you as a subscriber. And that is, from a utility standpoint, I wish we had more consumer protection. That's really not the role that we're playing in this. So it's just vetting the contract, making sure, it's looking at what could happen over the 25 years. I think you brought up bankruptcy, consolidation, what would happen if ownership changes? Is the contract still at the same price? Those are things to consider. And I know, other cities have gone through this, and we've seen cities sign, we've seen lots of cities say, 25 years kind of makes me nervous. It's they're making the call.
Thank you, Dan.
Is this in parallel with like stray voltage and stuff too?
No, I don't.
Is this totally different?
No. Yeah, stray voltage is something totally different.
Okay.
So no.
These are small power plants. These are generating electricity that's being connected to the grid.
So on County Road 2, where like, I don't know where you live, but where the great big lines went up,
Okay, that's the CapEx.
does that have anything to do with?
Well, yes and no.
Okay.
I don't believe, utility scale solar, perhaps. There's three types of solar. There's rooftop solar. Jamie's gonna put it on his house. He can put it on his own roof, he can have his own system, he owns it, he's responsible for it. His meter will spin backwards if it overproduces, that's how he gets his credit, okay?
I like that idea.
Utility scale is, we've gone out and we're contracting with solar developers, build us 50, 100 megawatts. These are small power plants, many acres, 50, 60, 100 acre land, 600 acres, lots of solar panels, that connects to the grid. Then you also have the community gardens, and as Lee said, the community gardens were meant to give people that your roof orientation doesn't align well with the sun, you don't want it on your roof, or you live in an apartment, or whatever. It gives them an opportunity that they can at least participate. That's where the community garden piece came in. And when we designed the program, community solar gardens were meant to look and feel like community gardens. I don't know if Cold Spring has a community garden, but everybody gets there, they got an acre of land somewhere, and everybody gets a little 10 by 10 spot because their yard isn't big enough for their own garden, so they can have this. That was the intent, the look and feel. So when some of the developers were stringing 50 1 megawatt systems together and calling them community gardens, we said, hey, wait a minute, that was not the intent as the law was drafted. So there's been lots of, let's call it discussion with that.
And it goes back, I think Mark does a great job, and it goes back to what I mentioned earlier. All of the costs are passed through to our customers. So when you saw those bill credits up there, on average, anywhere from 11.5 cents, so say you sell them 11.5 cents up to 14.5 cents. You average that out, that's about 12 to 13 cents a kilowatt hour. It was public, we're buying utility scale solar at about half the price. So maybe 7.5 to 8 cents, so maybe a little bit less than half. So from the company's perspective, first, we're huge supporters of community solar. Again, it goes back to providing options for our customers. But two, we want to make sure that we balance the impacts to all of our customers who'll be funding this. And that's when really the issues were raised immediately with the Public Utilities Commission.
It's complicated if you haven't gathered that, but the way the fuel clause works, for example, we're also a natural gas utility, not here, but in other communities we supply the natural gas. We're not allowed to make a profit on the cost of the gas itself. So if we buy natural gas for $1, we have to sell it to the customer for $1. That's called the commodity charge. So when natural gas prices were fluctuating and skyrocketing, much like when you go to the gas pump and it went from $2 today to $3 tomorrow, are you blaming SA? No, they're not. The same thing with us. It's the commodity. That's the price. The distribution charge is the other piece of the puzzle. The only time that number changes is if we file a rate case and get approved by the Public Utilities Commission. So just like with our plants, what it costs us to buy uranium to run our nuclear plants, what it costs us to buy natural gas to run our natural gas plants, coal to run our coal plants, that fuel is a pass-through. If, again, we buy it for $1, we have to sell it for $1. So as Lee was indicating, our concern when these 50 megawatt community gardens were coming in and they're getting the 14-cent or 12-cent subsidy, we know when they get that large, the price is closer to 6 or 7 cents. So that, because we're paying 14, that just goes, that's fuel. It goes right into what's called the fuel clause adjustment charge on our bill. So customers that don't participate in solar are going to pay a disproportionately higher share of the cost of solar through that fuel clause adjustment charge. I realize that's complicated, but that was our concern when we said, hey, wait a minute, it was 1 megawatt, that was the design and the intent, that's the way the law was passed. We never anticipated you'd string 50 of these together and call it a community garden. Again, our intent was solar gardens were meant to look and feel like community gardens.
Thank you. Thank you.
Probably more than you wanted to know.
Well, but it's good information, it really truly is. But now the council's gonna have to, and hopefully we can have this discussion at the next council meeting and actually step forward and make a decision, yay or nay. But again, thank you, we need this information, we need to know what our choices are and what our options are. And then we will ask other people that are involved in this process for some input. And then we'll decide how we're gonna move forward. But again, thank you, Mark, thank
Many
you, Lee.
subscribers are doing it for more reasons than just financial. Many are doing it because of.
It's the right thing to do.
It's green and they feel it's, yes, the right thing to do.
Yep.
So, okay?
Perfect.
Yes.
Thank you.
Dan, I'm sure will be talking to me and
I hope so.
I'll try to answer any questions that you have. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right. Number 7 on the agenda. City Hall remodel discussion. Is this going back to the planning commission discussion that's on there, or is that what?
Well, it's, you had asked me to put it on the last agenda, and I did, and then the council tabled it because they wanted to first take it to planning.
Okay.
And then we discussed it on the 18th, and now it's back.
Perfect. I just wanted to make sure I was
Okay.
stepping in the right puddle. All right, ladies and gentlemen on the council, and those of you that are here, I apologize that you can't see this, but in your council packet, one of the last pages that you received was a document entitled Planning Commission Reports from the November 18th, 2015 meeting. Basically, what the Planning Commission has done, and by the way, Planning Commission, thank you. I appreciate very much what you've done, and 2 of their members are sitting right here. So again, I thank you guys for doing this. What we asked them to do is take a look. At the beginning of the year, I wrote down a bunch of different things that we as a city should be considering. One of the things that we should be considering is, what are we going to do with regards to the building we're in right now? Are we going to leave it as it is? Are we going to abandon it? Or is there something in between that we're going to do? And that includes library, that includes fire, that includes police, that includes the city administration. What are we going to do? So what I did is I asked the council to agree that next year in the budget, we were going to put aside a certain number of dollars that we could use to hire professionals to help us with the process of figuring out how we're going to use this space. The council agreed that we would set aside a certain number of dollars, so that's where we are. So, council, with regards to what's going on here, what I'd like to do is ask you to do this. I would ask that with regards to this issue, I want to give the Planning Commission the authority to go ahead. We've already budgeted it, so I want to give them permission. But I want to do it in a format that everybody can be comfortable with the process. So what I'd ask you to do is think in terms of, what are you willing to do? Give them a blank check up to the amount that we approved on the budget. You want to hear what their proposal is? Figure out what it is you're willing to do. And then I'm going to ask, and I have already done this, I'm going to ask Chris to put it on next meeting's agenda where we're actually going to vote on it. So again, what we're going to do at the next meeting is, we're going to say to the, and this is hypothetical, we're going to say to the Planning Commission, yes, go ahead, you've got the money, do it. Or we're going to say, Planning Commission, yes, go ahead, but before you spend any money, we want to know what you're doing and how you're spending it. or we're gonna say, Planning Commission, thanks for the invitation, but we're gonna pass. By next meeting, I wanna know what you're willing, what we should do, and how we're gonna proceed. Agreed? Okay, so would you please, on the agenda for next month's meeting, I want to go through that. So again, if you, ladies and gentlemen, if you have constituent groups with whom you consult, this would be a great 2-week period to have those meetings, to have those discussions. Because again, what I'm saying is, next meeting, what we'll do is we'll decide how we should move forward so that in 2016, by the end of the year, I want there to be a plan so we can say, that is what we're doing. Not what we might do, that is what we're doing. Okay? Thank you. And thank everybody for helping out. And again, I can't overemphasize Planning Commission, thank you. And again, Jan, Dave, thank you. Chris, I can't thank you enough for what you did and what you're going to do. This is gonna be great. Questions with regards to item number 7 on the agenda? Jamie, Dave, Jan?
Clear.
All right, Fran? Chris? Good. All right, then we're on to item number 8. John, if you'd be willing to sit up here. Jamie, can I ask you to do me a favor? Can you take that mic that's right by you there, by your left hand, and flop it down on that table? Thank you.
Some requests for action I have are the maintenance tech 4 position. We want to appoint the hiring committee for that.
Okay, give me 1 second. Chris, if I could ask you to read the recommendation that he's asking for?
To appoint the hiring committee for Public Works Technician 4. 2.1 council member, Chris Stockendorf, John Stevie, Ron Fuchs, and Pete Weber to the hiring committee for the Public Works Technician 4 position.
Okay, before we can actually act on that recommendation, we have to have a name to fill in it to the blank. So volunteers, please. We need one.
You want to go, Fran?
Fran? Okay.
I can do it.
Okay.
All right. Now we're going to insert Fran's name in there. So now the recommendation says Fran and the rest of them. We need a motion, please.
I'll make that motion.
Jan, thank you. A second?
I'll second it.
Dave, thank you. We have a motion and a second. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Perfect. Thank you all for serving.
One thing I didn't get in my report, I was waiting for a bid and I got it back yesterday. Chris had handed out 2 bids that I got for a makeup air unit for the control building at the wastewater plant. We're gonna go with St. Cloud Refrigeration. They're the cheaper one. And they've been doing quite a bit of work out at the plant over the last few years. So if you wanna vote on that at all,
Can you tell me what this is?
it's like a makeup air unit for the furnace, the heating. It pulls the air out of the basement of the control building and sends it out. The existing one is from 1986. It's in pretty rough shape. That would come out of the budget line item 1470 72 6311 for equipment. For $9,750.
Did you get what you needed? Okay. So what I'm hearing you say is you're asking us to approve something that's already in the budget, but you're asking us to approve it so that you can go move ahead with the upgrading the city asset.
Correct.
Okay? How do we phrase that with regards to a motion?
If you want to do it, it would be to approve the bid from St. Cloud Refrigeration. Right, John? That's your recommendation?
Yep.
In the amount of the $9,750.
Not to exceed? Okay?
I made that motion.
Jan, thank you.
Yep.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, Fran, thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Excellent. John, thank you. Council, thank you.
And
What
just-
else you got?
Just an update, we held last Wednesday, we held a nitrate clinic down at the Public Works Garage. People from the area bringing a sample of water from their tap. And 40 people from the area brought in samples to get tested. The highest sample was 22.9. very successful clinic, and we had a lot of good positive feedback from the public on that. Just people concerned and wanted to know they didn't know what their caps sampled out at, so we're gonna do more of these and keep the public informed, so.
Excellent.
So did you put this on like the website or
Chessa from
string record,
Stearns-
where was it?
I think it was in the Stearns, it was in the record. There was a postcard that got sent out to residents in the area. And it was on their website, I think, as well, the Stearns County Watershed District or something.
John, following up to what Jan just asked. So apparently there's a limit to what people's water should be. Can you talk real shortly what that means and why it's important, and if we're going to do it again, what people can expect as far as when should we expect we're going to do it again, some of that kind of stuff?
Well, the range for nitrates is 0 to 10. Anything over 10 is obviously a concern. It's like the MCL, and it can create a blue baby syndrome, it's called.
Okay.
I'm not exactly 100% on what that does, but it's just high nitrates is hard on infants. So it gives the public a chance to see what they're at if they want to put some sort of treatment in. But then it also goes back to what the situation we're in right now as a city with our high nitrates and, our possible treatment in the future. So it just lets the public know everything about their well and the contaminants in there. And I would say we're probably going to run an annual clinic from now on.
Okay.
So.
The people that you're inviting, are they city residents? Are they township residents?
Township, we had people from Eden Valley, west of Richmond, north of town, south of town, east of town.
Okay,
All over the place.
so it's not the people from the city of Coastman, because we're already taking care of their water quality. It's other persons.
Private wells, yep.
Okay, and that's who we're addressing this to.
Yep.
And what we're saying is, we're gonna provide this service again next year. Communications, Jamie's already asked the question, and that's one of the things that this council has been working very hard at improving. Is there a way that you can see that we can improve communications of what we're trying to accomplish, that we're gonna have the testing, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I think more advertising, and also now that we've ran a clinic, I think those people that'll go out and talk to their neighbors and they can spread the word more too on it. The first one is always a kind of a trial and error test for how many people are gonna show up. But I think it's just gonna increase over the future.
When they brought their sample in, do they get the results right away?
Yep.
Okay.
Instantly.
Excellent. Anything else for John?
No.
John, thank you very much, appreciate it.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, John.
Item number 9, Brian, the city's engineer, do you have a report for us?
I do.
Well, can we have it then, please?
Sure.
Excellent.
Couple of quick things tonight. The County Road 2, just progressing on the design. I've been reviewing some of the streetscaping design, looking at how we incorporate all of the streetscape elements into the corridor, working around existing features, those sort of things. So I've been working with the landscape architects on that. Also wanted to let you know that we're having a meeting on November 30th at 6:30 at City Hall. It is in regards to the power line relocations that we're doing as part of the County Road 2 project, primarily in the block of Red River from Main Street to First Street and north. So sidebar, post office, flower shop, etc. What we're trying to accomplish there is to look at alternative ways to feed the businesses without having to put buried power in Red River Avenue. As a way to save costs over, looking at upgrading some of the overhead lines, as well as, some alternative ways to bring it in, and also so we don't have to put big transformers out into Red River. So that's really what that meeting is about. I'll have a bunch of information there talking about some of the potential power line locations, some of the potential upgrades, mostly behind businesses. And we did send out letters to the affected property owners as well. Big thanks to Chris and Lois for getting those out, I think, the end of last week. And so those letters have gone out, and then it's also extending the invitation to the council and the planning commission.
Will this be a public meeting?
Well, because he wanted to invite the council, I'm going to advertise it as a council meeting, just in case at least 3 council members do show up.
Okay.
You're not obligated to come, but
Okay.
it will be advertised.
Well, because it's a public meeting, will there be Channel 10's television cameras there recording it so that we can get that information out?
They generally don't televise their special meetings, but if you would like that, we can definitely request that they are.
This would be good information, wouldn't it? This would be a good time for you to do this. Okay? If you think it's a good information, then I think we should coordinate with them if they would do that.
Okay.
Thank you. And again, you said that was next Monday?
Next Monday, November
30th?
30th, 6:30 in this room,
Okay.
council chambers.
Okay, excellent. Monday, the 30th, regarding electrical power relocation, Main Street to First Street North. Thank you. All right, thank you. What else?
The wells, I believe, are finished with their test drilling on our site, north and east of town. The results right now look favorable for I think 4 new holes that they drilled. They used the Rotosonic rig, which allows them to actually extract a sample of the soil intact without drilling mud or anything. They look at that and then can find the good layers or the good strata, do an analysis on it, and that analysis then tells us a little bit about how good of a water-bearing layer it is, as well as if we are to put a well in there, what type of screen you use, basically the size of the screen in order to accommodate the particles in the soil. So we'll have, hopefully soon we'll have the water quality testing results from those, as well as the sieve analysis, which tells us a little bit about the material itself. But right now it looks promising.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you. What else?
And I think the only other thing I had on there is the wetland delineation did finally pass through the Corps of Engineers. They agreed with Stearns County Soil and Water, who agreed with the report that Stantec had prepared for the extents of the wetland. So at this point, it was just a formality. We were waiting to get that back from the Corps of Engineers, and we have. So our wetland delineation is complete.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you. Council, what do you got for him? Dave?
Nothing.
Fran? Chris?
Good job as usual.
Yeah, keep it up, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And do me one favor, take back to your staffs that we wish them a happy Thanksgiving, and we appreciate very much what they're doing. And I think they're praying that we don't get much snow, and you can tell them to keep doing that if they want. Except for Fran's sake, he wants a lot of snow.
All right, we'll do.
Thank you. All right, that's it for item number 9. I believe we're on the second page. Item number 10. Chris, would you do me a favor, please?
You bet.
Thank you. The next item, number 10 on the agenda, Chris Boucher, who is our chief of police, and he's going to give us a report.
All right, so what you have, I did pass some out there, so hopefully you guys have copies. We're just briefly going to talk about the month of August here. The month of August, we had 280 calls in the city of Richmond. 12 of those were medicals, 7 suspicious vehicles, people calls. We worked on some city ordinance issues. There's 20 of those. 110 traffic stops. There was 77 warnings and 77 citations. I'm not sure how that worked out that way, but 131 miscellaneous calls. 2 of the traffic ones, they would be, there's 2 alcohol violations, one being a DWI. And then in the month of August, the city of Cold Spring had 8 drug-related violations that were either cites or arrests. Number 2, August for 2015, the city of Richmond had 57 calls of service. 2 of those were medicals, 6 suspicious vehicles or people. 24 traffic stops. There again, 20 warnings with 10 citations were issued during those. 25 calls for service and one DWI in the city of Richmond. And then number 3 is outside the city of Richmond and or Cold Spring. There was 79 calls for service, or they're mainly traffic stops. When we do work TZD, we go to St. Cloud, we do traffic stops. So out of 79 things that occurred outside the city limits of either Richmond or Cold Spring, 50 of those were traffic stops. We had 4 canine assists. We did a search warrant where we found one of our suspects had a felon, or he was a felon, and he had a firearm with him. A little background on that: there was a guy living in Cold Spring here. He was on his deathbed. Someone decided to come and visit him and take his credit card and start using his credit card. So that was a real classy guy. So we ended up arresting him for that. And then on top of that, we ended up finding him with a firearm, which is good because that just adds more charges to his crimes. So that is that. Christy is here. Officer Hoffman is here. That's number 4. She's been helping out with that Central Minnesota Human Trafficking Task Force, where they go and they do make arrests for prostitution, whether it's John's or the girls. We did get some reimbursement back when she works overtime. It's kind of like TZD. You put the hours in, you turn in the hours. Chris has been helping with that. And then we get reimbursement for her hours that she's worked. So right now, as this at the time we had gotten this check was $1,722.63 is what we got reimbursed for her time working that. And just to give you an idea, like City of St. Cloud is involved in that, Way Park. Christy, what other cities assist in that?
That's Sartell, Sauk Rapids, St. Joe.
Okay, so like I say, it's nice because, like I say, it gives Officer Hoffman some experience in this stuff related to this. Not saying it's happening here a lot or make arrests here, but it's always good to have someone informed, working on the department. So it works out really good, and it also is giving back to not just the community of Cold Spring, but the surrounding areas. So we got that. Let's see here. And then I have one more thing I didn't put on yours. We had just got this resolved yesterday. City of Richmond, there was a lady that was missing her ring, a wedding ring. It was platinum. It was worth $10,000. We actually recovered that for her yesterday. So that's why it's not in your packet. So that was very nice. It's not just the value of the ring, it's the fact it was a wedding ring. Some guy tried to bring it in and pawn it to coin, silver and gold, whatever business. So we end up catching him on that. So that was resolved. Number five is the January 1st, we're going to have a float officer. It's going to be a float/investigator position. When an officer or someone on the force wants to take off using sick time, vacation, comp time, this person would be hopefully filling a majority of those shifts up. We did have one person hand me a letter of interest, and that officer is here. And that would be Jason Spoden. He has been here with the City of Cold Spring since February of 2013. Prior to that, he did work in the state of North Dakota, and he worked in another neighboring city. So he does have some experience on that. He's also trained in Corner House. That's where they interview small children that have been abused, whether it's physical, sexual, that type of thing. So in fact, that would be a very positive thing for that person to have, that kind of training. So he is in the room here. And
Chief, can I just stop you for a second?
Yes.
Can I ask you to have him sit up there so that we can all see who he is?
Excellent.
and
Yes.
all that kind of stuff?
That sounds
Can
perfect.
we please? Okay.
All right.
No, he'll get his turn next.
He's done talking about me, but I'll come stand over here.
And then just to kind of give you an idea, we were talked about filling shifts. I already did the January, February schedule, and already in those first 2 months, he's already filling 15 of those hours. So like I told you before, that's going to help eliminate a lot of part-time, need that we currently have. So by him filling in 15 open shifts already, and then when he's not filling in these open shifts, he'll be working an afternoon shift. So there again, that's by far our busiest part of the day. So it's going to give not just the city of Cold Spring, community of Cold Spring, better coverage. It's going to give the city of Richmond better coverage during those times too. So it's a benefit in both factors. And it also, when we were talking about that recovering that ring, for example, just that case alone involved 3 of us. You see what I'm saying? So if we end up going to court on that case regarding that ring, all 3 officers have to go to court. So now you're taking them off the road and you're creating all this time. Where if he in fact is doing the investigation and he ends up going to court, he himself goes to court. Versus sending 3 people. And it makes it so much clearer when you're looking at reports. Like when Angie's doing reports and she's got a supplement that I had done on one case, Christy's got one on this case, Jamie's got one on, you've got so many different reports, and it's mashed together. It's so much smoother when it's all as one. So yes, this is Jason Spoden. I just talked about Jamie. That's my problem. So that I would recommend that on January 1st that he would be given that position.
Okay, excuse me one second. Would you do me a favor and please read that out loud?
Sure. Recommendation is to approve the appointment of Jason Spoden to the float investigator position effective his first scheduled shift after January 1, 2016.
Questions, council?
I'll make a motion.
Jamie, thank you for the motion.
I'll second that
Dave,
motion.
motion is second. Discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Congratulations. Thank you.
Congratulations.
All right, excellent.
Thank you.
Excellent.
All right, now,
Now it's your turn.
All right, so now because he is taking that position, he was working midnights, let's say on Group A, right? We have 2 groups. Because he's taking that spot, now we will need to fill, obviously, his road spot, if you want to call it that. And that's where he comes in, Chad. I was going to say Jamie, almost there again. So Chad Vogt, he has worked for the city of Cold Spring since October of 14. He does reside, obviously, in the city of Richmond. He's got family. He's well-grounded here, which is good. He also applied for the last full-time spot we had when we hired Anita, and that was within this last year. And typically, as a department, if we do interviews and it's been within that year, we still have a valid candidate for that position. We basically put that person in that spot. So that's where that is at this point.
okay, thank you. Can I ask you to do me a favor and just read that, please?
Sure. A recommendation is to approve the offer of employment to Chad Vogt for the position of police officer, according to the terms of employment offered in the letter dated November 24, 2015.
Council, questions? Otherwise, I need a motion, please.
I'll make a motion.
Jamie, thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Jan, thank you. Motion is second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Congratulations.
Congratulations.
I appreciate it.
All right,
Thank you so
excellent.
much.
Thank you. All right, and then the last one is, we had this discussion, I know Bob was not here last time, about keeping 2 dogs on the force. Currently, we have Abby, and like we had talked about earlier, she's 10, you know what I mean? This next spring will be going on 11, so she's a large dog, so obviously if anybody knows anything about dogs, large dogs do not typically last much longer than that. Currently, like I say, we have Abby. She is trained in narcotics. And then we also have Riley, and he is trained in the tracking portion of it and the narcotics portion of it. There again, I'm going to kind of briefly discuss what we had talked about the last council meeting. We had a incident that was the city of Painesville had a guy they were looking for. They believed he actually was physically fighting with law enforcement. They asked Jason to go in the woods and look for him with his dog. So Jason did track him in the woods. And as this was occurring, I thought to myself, you know what? If they do come across this guy and he does have, let's say, have a weapon or whatever, the dog is going to track to this person, but that's it. I mean, there is no protecting the officers that are out there and so forth. So that's kind of what swung me to thinking about having an apprehension dog. What that dog would do is, let's say we have some suspects, and let's just make one up here. They go from the bank, they run into the old middle school, right? The DEF building over there. And they're inside there. We know they're in there. Instead of sending 5, 6, 7, 8 cops in there to clear this building, you could simply send the dog in there, right? And let the dog find that person. So it's much safer on anybody that's going to be going in there. So that's what an apprehension dog can do. So once you get to the person, the dog would actually apprehend the person if they wouldn't cooperate. So that's what that is. Currently, St. Cloud has 2 apprehension dogs, and the city of Sauk Rapids, but from what I gather, Sauk Rapids dog will be retiring here, if it isn't retired already. It's very close, because I know they're also in the same process we are about getting some money together, okay? So it is one of those things where it just wouldn't benefit the city of Cold Spring and or Richmond, but it would benefit, St. Cloud, Stearns County, Meeker, because at this point I know the Meeker County dog is no longer an apprehension dog either. So it's one of these things where there's just not a lot of them out there. So what I would like to do is start getting some donations, whether it's through businesses or private people like we did last time. And then this would be for the purchase of a dog, equipment that you would need for this dog, and the training. So that's kind of where this one sits. So it'd be nice if, I know the last time when we got asked, we went around and asked for money for Riley, we got it in a very short period of time. We're talking a couple weeks we got this money. I don't really care to do that over again. Like I said, it would be nice if we could take our time. Like if you're buying a car, you could save some time. You could save some money every month and putting that money away. So, if it takes us 6 months, it's 6 months. If it takes us 9 months to collect it, it's 9 months. If Abby's done in 6 months and we have the money, then I would come to you and say, we have this money sitting here for the purchasing of this dog. If Abby's done in 6 months and we don't have the money, we wait until we collect the rest of the money is what it would be. So that's kind of where it sits. So, I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Council, what do you think?
I think it's a good idea. I think it would be, we've got a reputation for having the dogs on the force, and just
Right.
to expand the type of training the dog has, I think would be an asset, like you said, to us and to the area, so.
Right. And what's nice too about this whole deal is, Crimea, I don't know if I brought this up, but all the stuff that's happening across the ocean, right now, if you're going to buy a dog, this is the time to buy a dog. You know what I mean? In the next 2 years or a year or whatever it may be, because the Russian economy is in the dumps. Okay, so our United States currency is worth way more than it was back when we purchased Abby. To give you an idea, when we bought Abby, let's back up even more. We bought Rocky, right? We got him from overseas. He was $5,500. Then 9/11 happened. Okay, so what happened to the price was. Now, just police departments aren't looking for a dog. Now, militaries are looking for bomb dogs. All these different kinds of dogs. Price went from $5,500 to $12,500. Okay, we paid $8,000 for Abby, right? What did we pay for Riley? $9,500. Yeah, so $9,500. Years later. So you think about that. The value. The United States currency is way much more now. You can buy way better quality dog with much less money. Is what I'm trying to say. So we're in a perfect situation at this point to purchase a dog too, which is good.
Excellent.
And are these specific breeders?
We would
Ones that
definitely.
you've been-
I would like to go with the same person we bought Riley through. For one, he's a I don't know if is he a lieutenant or he works in a department down in the cities. Okay, so he has not just police experience, but he also has connections over there. So when he goes, so what he does is this: he's got his connections over there. Before he flies there, he says, "I'm coming over there. I want 5 dogs." Okay, so then this people out there looking for dogs for him will gather these dogs up. He'll fly over there. He'll run these dogs past him, right? And he'll pick the dogs that he wants. So that's what's very nice. He's got good connections over there. So the reason you buy dogs over there is the hereditary. You don't have hip issues, eye issues, stomach issues. It's kind of like a thoroughbred horse. Over here in the United States, they look at a dog and they're like, you have a really nice female dog, looking dog, and a male dog, let's have puppies. Over there, if a dog has bad hips, they don't use it for anything. Does that make sense? So they don't look at what the look of the dog is. They look more for the hereditary parts. So if it has bad hips, if it has bad eyes, they don't use that, because that's kind of how they make their money over there. Instead of people over here raising horses, they have people that all they do is raise dogs for this. So for the money, you're way better off to go overseas and get the right dog, a good dog. Because like I say, when you're going to spend that kind of money, you don't want to find out the dog has bad hips, and you have $10,000 into a dog with bad hips. That would be horrible.
And the training, you have a facility here that would train them?
It would be the same, Steve. Yeah, he would do all the training. No different than we did the training with Jason and Riley for the narcotic part. So before Jason went down there, Steve had the dog trained in narcotics and all this stuff. Brought Jason down there and said, "Okay, the dog is green trained, and we're going to train you and the dog now," if that makes sense. So before we go down there, there's training with the dog. There's certain departments that train dogs after they get them. But see, this is the problem. Then you have for one, you have an officer off the street training a dog, and now you have to fill his hours, to work the road. But now if you start training a dog and 3 months into it, you're like, you know what, this dog isn't going to work. Now what? Now you have to get rid of a dog you spent 3 months training, So if we buy a fully trained dog, it's perfect. If we get it and we get it back here and we're like, you know what, it's just not working, they take it back, they give us a brand new dog. So it's a guaranteed thing is what it is.
And they do the extra level of training there on the apprehension piece too.
They would, yes. And there again, you know, whoever that officer would be, you'd have to go down there to get that training. You know, it's not like you'd hand that person the keys or the leash and say, okay, this dog can go clear a room, go in there and clear the room. You know what I mean? It's going to take some time to train that officer. So it's definitely more training involved when you talk in the apprehension part, because you want the dog to come back. You know, if you send the dog at somebody and you're like, you know what, that's the wrong person, you want to be able to recall that dog. Does that make sense? So you want this dog to be spot on. You don't want an accidental bite, because then it's a liability for the city. So, right, we want not just the dog to be well equipped and trained, you also want the handler who's handling that dog to be adequately trained in using that dog. You know, I don't want somebody to be clearing a school, you know, and the dog is not trained to the point we want it, and the suspect is behind him now, you know, and now he's either going to assault the person or he's going to flee out the building. We don't want that. We want a top-notch dog. And by going through that guide, there's no doubt we would get a good dog.
And speaking of that, with the apprehension piece of it and the risk of bites,
Yep.
the insurance coverage and stuff for that?
You'd have to talk to the city's insurance, but there again, I am sure we're not the only city that's got a bite dog. To give you an example, when we went down to, was it New Ulm? We went to training. We went down there, and let's just say there's 140 dogs there. Okay, out of those 140, probably 100 of them were bite dogs. Pretty safe bet. You see what I'm saying? So for a city to get insurance or to check for that, there's going to be insurance. And we would be very foolish not to have insurance too. But yeah, there will be insurance. But there again, there's only certain scenarios you can release a dog, you know, to go get somebody. It's got to be a felony. It's got to be this. You know what I'm saying? So there's certain standards. You can't be like, you know, if somebody stole a pack of cigarettes out of Super America, you know, let's let the dog at them. You know what I mean? There's definitely standards to that. You have to meet these standards to release that dog, is how it works.
And that's the officer's training, not the
And there
dog's
again,
training.
right, that would be the officer that is actually assigned to that dog. It wouldn't be the guy that's got the dog shows up and the guy that's there is like, yeah, send your dog in there. You know what I mean? The officer that's actually handling the dog needs to find out what the situation is, you know, how new the fresh is, you know, how fresh the track is. Is there even a possibility of catching that person? How many people are going to be in this area when you release the dog? You know what I mean? You would never want to release the dog when there's 30 people in there. Now, if the school is like right now, it's shut down, all locked up. You talk to the janitor. Yeah, there should be nobody in there. You know, but yes, there's a broken window. Yeah, you've seen the guy in there. You know, you can announce that you're going to release the dog. If that person chooses to come out, great. He doesn't get bit. If he doesn't come out, he's probably going to get bit. Or he better hide somewhere really good so he doesn't get bit. So, I mean, it's definitely a benefit. When I started here in Cold Spring, there used to be a lot more dogs. So, and I don't know why that is. You know, whether it's the cost, you know, the cost of a dog has gone up a lot. Is it the liability? I don't know. But to say 100 cities in Minnesota have dogs that are like that, I mean, there's got to be a way of getting the dog covered. You know, I mean, it's not like we're asking for something that's not out there. So that's that.
Thank you. What else?
Budgeting for that second dog, did we budget if we do have a second dog?
Well, we
The
budgeted,
maintenance
we
for it?
budgeted for the 2 dogs, and if I understood Chris correctly, we would not get a third dog until Abby stepped down, so we would just
Right,
still
so-
keep the 2 dogs.
Okay.
It's not for, I'm not here asking for a third dog, guys. You know what I'm saying? I'm saying if Abby is certified now in 15, so I think she can go through 16, worst case scenario. You know what I mean? Let's say I take her this spring to get certified, she doesn't get certified, whatever. Her license is still good through 16. So no matter what, if she's more than capable of walking and, you know, doing all these things, she can work completely through 16, not a problem. But once 2017 comes, I can't use the license I'm under at this point, if that makes sense. Okay? So if 6 months comes down the road, we have this money sitting there, right, from donations, and we bring Abby in and we find out Abby's hip has blown out or whatever, right? Then I'll come to you and say, Abby is done. She will no longer be on the street. You know, we have this money. Let's get a hold of Steve. You know, and there again, it's not like I can call him, let's say a month from now and say, hey, next month we want a dog. It doesn't work that way. You know what I'm saying? It's got to be timed right. It's like he's got to be able to fly over there, you know, check these dogs out. There again, we may go a year without that dog. You know, very, very, very good possibility, you know. I would imagine he doesn't fly over there, every month. Maybe twice a month. There again, I really don't know that. But
Would,
yeah.
would Abby's budget be the same as this new dog? Or since the dog is more, is there going to be more
There's gonna
cost
be-
to this second
There
dog?
will be some more expenses. I think Way Park trains, 2 days out of the month? We'd have to find that out, but
They're required to do 8 hours of training each month.
Right. So he would either do it on his shift, you know what I mean? Do the training. Or some cities say, hey, we want you to get this whole thing done in a day, so do not come on the road. Work with you and your dog for that, you know what I mean? That, I'm sure it's a liability reason, for those 8 hours they have to work. So you're right, there is a little more expense. So like I said before, it's not a drug dog. It's not gonna be just a drug dog. It's gonna be an apprehension dog. Like with Abby, I mean, you could set a box of, drugs here in this room and you guys are all gone and we let her in here, she hits it. I mean, that's 10 minutes of my time. I'm done training, right? Where the apprehension, you got to get someone that's willing to take the bite, so you need a bite sleeve, those kinds of things. So there will be an expense, but the majority of the expense, I hope to get through donations.
Is this also going to be a drug dog too, or?
Yes,
it's gonna
it
be
most
both?
definitely will be a drug dog. Yeah, there again, a lot of times will we need a bite dog? No. But when it comes to the point where you would really like to have one, like when we were in Painesville chasing that guy, it would have been great. You know what I mean? I didn't, after thinking about it, I'm sitting there watching him around the perimeter going, I kind of hope you don't come in contact with that guy. Because there again, what's Riley going to do? Nothing. He's not trained to do that. You see what I'm saying? So no, it would be a tracking dog, like what Riley is. It'd be a drug dog like Riley and Abby at this point. And it'd be at the apprehension part. And like articles, I mean, it's going to be able to find, let's say a guy throws a gun out of a car. He's going to be able to find those kinds of things. Where Abby, it's strictly drugs. If we're in a chase and somebody throws a weapon out, Abby would never find it. She's not trained in that.
Chris, again, in a minute, I'm going to talk to the council about going forward with this. But one of the things that might help alleviate some of the concern, what you've been talking about is the fact that we would have a dog that all the small cities in this area right now don't have access to. They would now have access to it. If we use our resources in a different jurisdiction, we sometimes get reimbursements for those things. Would it work the same with regards to the dog? Is there a way that we can get reimbursed?
I can look into that. The problem is this, like I've told you in the past about other things, I don't want to compare us to farmers, but let's say you're getting your crop out and you're running late. What does a neighbor farmer do? He'll get in his tractor, he'll help you out. So no different than this. So the most departments that I could see that would be beneficial to having this dog would be St. Cloud. Because they have 2 dogs, but they're not always on. You see what I'm saying? So the likelihood of, let's say, Kimball calling us up for a dog, extremely unlikely. Okay. The city of St. Cloud calling us for a dog, very likely. Okay. That's very likely. Because here when we did those 4 canine assists, I can already tell you, those are St. Clouds. I mean, without a doubt, St. Cloud or Stearns County asked us for a dog. Why? Because their dogs weren't on. Now go back to St. Cloud. If they call us and say, hey, we have a guy that ran from a scene, armed robbery, can you bring your dog? Yes. The great thing is, when we now call them, because of our office, the way it's set up, we have no interview rooms. We have no soft interview rooms or hard interview rooms. So when we call them and say, hey, we need to set up an interview, could you have someone there to help us turn on your recorder? You know what I mean? Your surveillance in the room. Can we use this soft room? Can we do all this? You know what they say? Not a problem. Okay. You see what I'm saying? So there's a benefit there that I can't say we don't want to charge them, but there again, there's always times where we're going to need their help. Yeah. And I'd rather have them owe us one than go, you know what? Last time they were here, they charged us $60 for their dog to go and track somebody that they did not find. Okay. There again, it is
intangible benefit more than an economic benefit. Yep. But the benefit is still there.
Here's the main benefit. Like I told you the last council meeting, the main benefit is this. It's still always going to be this. If you're talking about generating revenue, it's going to be this. If an officer has a dog and he's on the street, he stops a car, he thinks there's drugs in that car, he runs the dog around there, the dog indicates on that car, now we do not need consent to search your car. So now we find the drugs, we take the drugs, we take your cash, we take your car, we deposit your cash, we sell your car. That's where the money's to be made. To be honest with you, that is I mean, I've been here for what, 20-some years? That is the only thing that generates money for the police department, is drug revenue. Drug, you know what I mean, and alcohol. I mean, we have, well, there again, I hate to go back to the Tahoe, but everything that's on the Tahoe was paid through drug revenue. Well over $10,000. So to say we're going to charge the city of St. Cloud $60 to go track a guy down, there's no money in it. You see what I'm saying?
Okay, thank you.
So,
Okay, I wanted to go to the council just for a second. Ladies and gentlemen, what do you think? Is this something that we should pursue and begin the effort to try to see if the public will warmly receive this idea and donate towards the potential future purchase of a dog?
Yeah, let's go with it.
Okay?
Yep.
All right, then let me paraphrase if I can, and with your help. Because donations given to the city of Cold Spring are tax deductible, correct? Okay, so donations given to the city of Cold Spring for the express purpose of purchasing the next dog would be a tax deductible event. If people are interested, if people know people that are interested, they can get in touch with either the police department or Chris or Lois or Angie, and we can make that happen.
definitely.
Okay, thank you. That's what I needed. Thank you.
All right,
And
thanks,
again, I
guys.
think you're onto something. Let's raise the money. Again, please, we've got a family, the Nelson family, the veterinarians here in town. They take good care of Abby and also with Riley.
Right.
They've already expressed in the past their great support for what we've been doing. I don't see that stopping. So again, please, I think this is a great idea. Let's get it done.
Sounds good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Chris.
guys. Thank you.
Congratulations to the two officers.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Thank you. All right. We're on to item number 11 of the agenda. This is Chris's shining hour. So if I can ask you to do me a favor, please, and turn all of your attention this way. Chris.
I just have one thing for you. This is something we've talked about a few times. And the Planning Commission talked about it at their last meeting. And this is hopefully going to help us reduce our debt for the Blue Heron Heights and Business Park debt. And it's a resolution. And it's basically a plan that any lots that we sell, the revenue would go straight towards reducing the debt. And any tax revenue from those lots or any buildings on them, starting the first of the year, would go directly towards that debt rather than towards general fund operations.
If I can, before we go any further, please remember something. The last time we had to secure debt, we went out and we talked to Moody's. You remember Moody's? And one of the things that they had some heartburn over was the fact that we had this old debt and we didn't have a plan of how we're going to address that debt. So what we did is we said, Planning Commission, work with us. What can we do? Chris spearheaded this. It worked out real nicely. We came up with a plan. Is it ideal? No. But will it work? It beats the heck out of anything else we've been doing. So where we are right now is Chris is about to read a recommendation, and then I'm going to ask for a motion.
Okay. Recommendation is to adopt resolution number 2015-28, a resolution designating revenue from Business Park and Blue Heron Heights properties.
Questions? Otherwise, I'd love to have a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Jamie, thank you. A second?
I'll second it.
Okay, sorry,
Oh,
Dave.
go ahead, Fran.
Fran did this.
Oh, I didn't hear that. I'm sorry.
You can put Dave's name on there.
Okay, no, well, let's
I seconded, put Dave's name.
We need a name. We're going to use Fran's because he did this.
No, that's
Okay,
fine.
So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion with regards to this motion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Perfect. Again, Planning Commission, Chris, thank you. What else you got for us?
Nothing.
That's it? Okay. We're on item number 13, general questions, comments from the council. Dave?
I think you skipped number 12.
You skipped 12.
Oh, no way.
We gotta pay them bills. Bob.
Item number 12 is paying the bills.
Yeah, we
Do you
gotta pay
think
that
I
bill.
did that on purpose?
Yeah, we're saving money.
We're saving money.
Yeah.
Okay, I need a motion for number 12.
I make that motion.
Fran, thank you.
I'll second that.
Dave, thank you. And you didn't fight or anything, I appreciate that. Any discussion about it? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. We're paying our bills. All right, now we're going to go on to item number 13, general questions and comments. Dave, you're first.
Nothing from me.
Okay, Jen?
Nothing, thank you.
Fran?
I'm good.
Jamie?
Nothing.
Okay, then I do want to have one more thing. Again, please remember, between now and the next meeting, the recommendations from the planning commission, we're going to talk about them next time. So those of you that want to see what the recommendations are, get in touch with the administrative staff. Otherwise, we're going to talk about them next meeting and the meeting after that. Otherwise, please, wear your sunscreen. That's all I have to say. Do you have anything? What? That's a serious comment. Wear sunscreen, please. Anything else?
Nope.
Okay, all right. Then I'm on item number 14. I need a motion to adjourn. But before we do, remember, Monday, Brian, Monday, November the 30th,
6:30 p.m.
6:30 p.m.
in this room.
in this room.
Meeting regarding the utility line relocation for Red River Avenue.
Perfect.
Specifically Main Street to First Street North.
Thank you. And then our next regular scheduled council meeting is December 8th. Now I need a motion to call it a quit.
Make motion.
Jan, thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Jamie, motion is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Another sensational meeting.